Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today just came to me to do a video comparing the Tarot of Marseille published by Piatnick, which was based on the German deck by Ignaz Krebs of 1736, with the Hes Tarot of 1750, which is German, not Austrian. I guess it's been pointed out to me that the Piatnick Publishing Company is in Austria, not Germany. But they are both German-speaking countries, and I'm presuming influenced by similar cultural things. For whatever reason, it occurred to me also to throw in the Tarot of Marseille by Lando, which is a Piedmontese deck, which of course is Italian. But I don't know, sometimes when you just throw something random into the mix, you get some interesting results. But the two primary decks that I'm comparing with one another are the Tarot of Marseille by Piatnick, and in this case the Ignaz Krebs. Ignaz Krebs apparently was the deck creator, 1736, and the Hes by Hes in 1750. And then the Lando is Italian, Piedmontese, and I think that's like 1832, so it's 100 years later. So there may not be any similarities between the Piedmontese and the two German-speaking decks. I don't know, sometimes you just see something interesting. Okay, so let me flip the camera and we'll do comparisons. So the disappointing thing about the Piatnick deck is that the little booklet itself that it comes with, it tells us nothing about this deck. In fact, this booklet rather, just discusses the mystery of tarot and the significance of some of the cards, or the psychology and how to divine with the cards. But it doesn't even identify this deck as having been created by Ignaz Krebs. In fact, I think I had to find this information in like one of Stuart Kaplan's 4 books, the encyclopedias. I think that's how I finally narrowed down the Piatnick deck. Now, the box says, I think, 1986, and something like that. Where's my box? I think the box says 1986 somewhere. But then the insert here tells me 1984. But the insert tells me that I have a reprint from 2006. The Hes deck, which is definitely one of my favorite decks for sure, was created by Giordano Berti, published by Giordano Berti, but created in Germany originally in 1750 by Hes. And the thing I love about Giordano's decks is that the generous information that is provided, aside from the gorgeous, look at this deck box. This box is just stunning. And I don't highlight Giordano Berti enough, but he's got some incredible decks. It comes with a card that will give you a little thumbnail information about the deck in various languages. And in English, it just says, this old German tarot has been faithfully reproduced in 2019 by Renascimento, Italy. 900 numbered copies signed by the editor. And then there's just like a generic white book about the Tarot of Marseille. But Giordano always includes a generous booklet on the deck itself and the influences and the person who created it. And so it's very good. Okay, so let's get started. Now, right out of the gate, these cards obviously go in a different direction. Now, they aren't carbon copies of one another by any stretch of the imagination, this one being 20 years later than this one, 1736 and 1750. But we do see some similarities. I mean, the shape of the overall hat is kind of reminiscent, although this one appears to have a wing. And this one kind of, well, okay, I'm stretching it a little bit. I guess the hats are similar, but not exact. The clothing, they have ruffle collars. They have a similar style, belted loose toward the waist. Here, the backside is exposed. Here, I'm not sure what's going on here. We have a flesh tone leg and then a pantaloon, which looks like it's sagging. So based on these two cards, I would not say that there was any similarity. But in the Piedmontese, we do have similar clothing, similar hat. We see some kind of twisty thing going on with the sack to attach the sack, but there's no backside exposed here like we see suggestions of over here. Now, I love the Hes because these individuals are full-figured. They look like real people. Attention was paid to detail to give them personality, I think, you know. Whereas in the Piatnick deck or the one by Krebs, I don't see as much personality. However, we see a similar style hat with color. We see blonde curly locks. He's looking in this direction. They're both holding the wand. They have a similar posture. The arrangement of images on the table are different. They're in reverse, but they're similar. They are in reverse here. And look at the elegance of the legs of the table. Still 3 legs. TDM seems to be consistent with the 3-legged table. The woman of mystery, the female pope here. We see, so this almost looks like snake heads, but I think it's just scrolling from a chair. They do have a veil hanging behind. Her posture's the same, her glance is the same. Her crowns are very similar. They both have a book. This one is much more abstract. Also notice that although La Papesse is written in the same language here, one thing I failed to mention is that the Fool is written Le Mat et Le Bateleur for the magician. Let's see what we have here. I didn't comment on the language. So we have Le Fol, Le Bateleur, and Le Pépère. So the Fool is spelt differently or named differently. Again, similarity. The eagle's wings are a little different, but the clothing is similar style. The crowns are different. Let's see what the crown's doing here. The crown is more similar to the Krebs. They all have wings, or a wingback chair. But the center one by Hes almost looks like she has wings. And the eagles are more similar. I mean, this is just a random combination of decks to look at together, But sometimes I think it's fun to just look at random decks because you just never know what kind of influence you'll see. Now here we have the number 4 that we see in the Noble and some of the other TDMs. Perhaps, in the same publishing house or by the same individual, May, I think his name was. Sorry for the slurp. I broke my own rule. I've recently learned that it's a long day in my tarot parlor if I don't have a cup of tea or water. So what I've done is introduce sippy cups that, like, I can spill them, like for toddlers, so I could spill it or drop it and I wouldn't lose any liquid and it wouldn't get all my beautiful cards. So I have grown-up sippy cups. Anyway, Lotus the Eagle Wings are all different. These two, again, are a little more similar. The hats, though, look at the hats. They all have that long tail at the back. These two, interestingly, have spikes on the hat. Of course, they're all in profile. The posture is exactly the same, and the staves are pretty similar. So the acolytes are present. Not as easy to see in the Lando. It kind of gets more abstract. The Lando is a bit more abstract. And here we can still see a clear delineation of the people. We can see that these are individuals with tonsured heads. This one has a hat. There's reference to the stigmata on his glove. And I don't know if this is a gloved hand or just a hand. Now we see that we have the lover card in reverse here. Neither has a blindfolded Cupid. And the images, seems to be in reverse. What have we here in the Lando? Also not blindfolded for Cupid. And these two, again, a little more similar. Although we have Cupid coming from an opposite direction in this card than these two. So this one has similarities with both of these. Now here we'll notice that we have TDM style 1 with the scalloped canopy. And I'm not really sure what's going on up here with this canopy. It's just not easy to see. It just looks like a solid color cross. So already it's like not quite TDM1 or TDM2 because in either of these two decks, because Cupid was not blindfolded, but the scalloped edge appeared in the chariot. So let's just see how we go further, what influences we can see. Here we have Justice, written differently. La Justice, Justice, La Justice. I mean, I'm sure I'm not saying it right, so excuse me. Again, the Lando is very abstract. It's almost like when you use. I've noticed this before when I use the Lando. It's almost like using abstract art. Now you'll notice that Krebs Justice looks directly at us, just like, the Noble did. But the Hesses has a sideways gaze. What do we have here in the Lando? She also has a sideward gaze. So we see a little bit of ermine, ermine in the clothing. See that little detail of ermine? Now these two are a little more similar in this thing. He's got a hat here that he has over here, a hood. No hood here. A candle is clearly indicated in the light box, but I don't see that in these two. Almost looks like there's like an open pit of water down here. Like if you fall in the pit of water. I'm sure that's not what was intended, but that's just what it looks like to me. Again, a reverse image, with the wheel turning in opposite directions as a result, right? I know we're 17 minutes in, and I don't know if I'm going to do anything beyond the Triumph cards. Maybe I'll do the pip cards in a second video to help make these videos a little less long. Oh, the Hess is just so beautiful. This is definitely, I think, easy to see why the Hess is one of my favorites. I mean, the Metelli is my favorite, but the Hess is not far behind. It's a great deck. Again, with the TDM2, we don't see the fingers behind the shoulders, right? We don't see that here. We see it here. Wow. We see it on this one. Isn't that strange? So again, this would be TDM2 and this would be TDM1 characteristic, but none of them are truly either TDM1 or TDM2, which, leads me to believe that the creators of these decks were familiar with aspects of TDM1 and TDM2. It's not a matter of timing. It's really a matter of location and familiarity, right? So it's interesting, to see what characteristics these card makers saw, from other decks and what they incorporated. Remember, the Lando, is Italian in the Piedmont region, which certainly by that time, 1830, whatever, could have already been influenced by the French, right? Because, everything in French was fashionable, and I can see Italy, reabsorbing tarot with a French flavor, especially in the Piedmontese area, where they might have just very possibly been selling to the French, right? I mean, the names are in French, right? I don't think they're written in Italian. So they would have been appealing to a French audience. Now these two are very similar. They have the red flower, same posture as all three do, okay? Look at the details on the wings. Are there any similarities? Not really. As an aside, I think it would be interesting for you to know that neither my husband nor I tested positive this morning. Now, my kids left on Saturday afternoon. Today is Tuesday. And they were clearly sick before they left. They were, not that they were like clearly sick, but they both seemed to have a cold, And then they seemed to just have, my daughter-in-law in particular seemed to have a cold. And now here, look, the devil has like a red top on, which is kind of curious. So my daughter-in-law seemed like she was sick. The infant seemed like he was sick. He had a fever. We attributed it at that time to teething, but who knows. And then the toddler, my 3-year-old granddaughter, she seemed to have a cold, but she always seems to have a cold. She goes to daycare, and so they always seem to have a cold there, So, I don't know if we've tested ourselves prematurely on Tuesday rather than waiting an extra day. I do have a scratchy throat, but it's just interesting, how this stuff works. So my son is testing negative. The toddler, I think, is testing negative. My daughter-in-law, they didn't retest her, but she still seems to be sick, so she's probably still positive. And the infant, I don't know if they actually ever really tested him. To be honest, I don't know. But he did seem to be ill. But at any rate, this is a squirrely kind of virus. I don't know how, But at any rate, my husband and I, at least 2 days, let's see. They left Saturday, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. 3 days after they left and were clearly symptomatic, those guys were testing positive on Sunday. And we were exposed to them all week for 9 days. So I think it's probably safe to say we don't have it. Anyway, we see no face in the belly in either of these. And this one is censored, or not that it's censored, but it's got clothing on it. And I'd like to thank you for hanging in there with me, because I know sometimes these are kind of boring, I guess, if you're not into tarot or TDM in particular. So another TDM one trait would be if the action was coming from the tower rather than from the heavens. And this is vague in both of these. This one looks like it's coming from the sky. Oh, this one it's kind of hard to tell. It could go either way. And here in the Lando, it seems like it's definitely coming as a result of a lightning strike, right? That looks kind of like a lightning strike. And the names, there's power in names, you've got to be careful with words, right? You always have to be careful with your words, because words have power. And when you write things down, even, like being sensitive to that, you got to be careful with your written word, At any rate, these two are written in the same way, maison deux, and this is just la maison. We have a reversal of the image in the star card. These stars, these two primary stars have similar detail, right? Even if it's a little different surrounding it. So none of the configurations of the stars are identical in these three. See, her leg, this looks like her leg here was painted blue. So there was a little confusion between the leg and the water in the Krebs. Okay, TDM1. We see a full-facing moon for the moon card. Isn't that a pretty moon card? Here we have a TDM2, as we do here, in the opposite direction. Now the Krebs has a particular cutout shape of that wall, and we've seen it in other decks, and I wish I could think of it off the top of my head, but I can't. But if any of you can identify what other decks have that, it would save me a lot of trouble and being lazy. And these two here, the Lando and the Hes, have similar wall configurations. We have a snowy day here in southern New Jersey. Kind of dark. Now these individuals, in judgment of Krebs, or the Piatnick deck, they're clothed. The Hes, they're naked, as they are in the Lando. All three of the centered figures have tonsured heads, which maybe implies that the individual in the center is a religious or devout person. And we have the flag on the horn of the Hes and the Lando and not the Krebs. These two, the Lando and the Hes, the angel is sort of facing to the left, whereas in the Krebs, he is facing forward. And the final card, none of them are TDM1. All three are TDM2 with the cape or the C. In this case, the Hes is the only frontal, C-shaped ribbon or shawl or blanket or whatever. Whereas in the Krebs and the Lando, it's in reverse. If it were TDM1, we'd see like a wreath around the mid section or the private area of the figure, which we don't have here in any of these. So I think I'm going to halt it here, and I'm going to just continue with a second video on the pip cards. I hope you enjoyed the comparison of the Triumph cards. If you enjoy my videos, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up, if you would subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and share my videos is fine with me. And, it helps me out quite a bit, So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Until next time, peace and stay well.